We all have a story, and at times we feel we're walking it out alone. Let's pause and think. Join us for honest conversations about adoption and parenting as we lament, encourage, give hope, and explore our true identity and worth in Christ.
Hola. Hi. Welcome to Pause and Think.
We're doing English today.
We're doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Welcome to another episode of Pause and Think, where we take a look at difficult subjects and have actual meaningful conversations. Hopefully, we can serve you. And today, we're going to talk about something that I never thought when I started this adoption journey that would become controversial in a way, and it's Gotcha Day. Gotcha Day. So, yeah, this is, first of all, let us define it, because it's like the celebration adoptive families do to commemorate the day they bring their baby or their child through adoption home. And so all families have different traditions, but they basically go through the story again and, maybe have a cake and celebrate that you became part of our family and that your trajectory basically changed. So that's in a nutshell what Gotcha Day means. In our family, it's not Gotcha Day. It's we sort of took it from a Disney show, actually. My kids actually named the day, and it's Bienvenida, which is like a welcome day for their sisters. And so in our house, one of our girls absolutely loves it and looks forward to it. And the other one's like, oh, that's today. And that's just the way she approaches it. And we were just chatting off camera that, it may change the future, but I really want to talk to you about it and how you feel about it, because you're farther along in the journey. And so, yeah, let's talk about how it's been for both of us.
Well, thank you, Aixa. And this is a very, very interesting subject to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
It's new. Well, not super new, but we've been hearing a lot more about it just because our passion for foster and adoptive children.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, this is a very interesting subject for me. And I love to hear different views. And I just want to start out by saying, you and I are not psychologists, far from it. But we have experience, you as an adoptive mom, Aixa, and myself as an adoptive daughter, to just talk from experience, and because God has brought into our lives many other adoptees and their families. So all that we share today is coming from our life experience in this area, and not because we've actually studied it. So we just want to make that clear. And I, first of all, I was adopted back in the 60s. So back then, there was no Gotcha Day. There was no Gotcha Day. Adoption was even so, it was not common like it is today. I was the only adoptive kid in school, along with my brother and sister. To my knowledge, there was no other adoptive child in our school. I'm talking from kindergarten till the day I graduated.
Oh my!
So now in Sunday school and school, you just hear of so many families. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. Times have changed. But back then, I don't even know the exact day because my mom went to be with the Lord. So I don't even know the exact day that, if we want to call it my Gotcha Day. I know the month, which is in February. But now that I'm a mom, now that I'm on this side of brokenness, I have mixed feelings about it. I don't feel super strong. I can understand one perspective, and I can understand from the perspective probably more so on my side as child, as the child of adoptive parents. But thinking back to my situation, on the side where I had a very broken perspective, I was angry. I think if I had to choose only one word, I was very ashamed of my story. I was very ashamed that I was adopted. I was ashamed of hearing my story and why I had to be adopted. It wasn't, I seen it as I had to be adopted because I was rejected and abandoned. And so for me as a child, if I look back on it now, I think for myself, I would have seen it as a day of that represented rejection and abandonment because I had to become part of another family because my family of origin did not want me. And so understanding how, when I look back into my childhood, how I thought I felt, I'm not so sure I would have been a huge fan of Gotcha Day.
Of celebrating it. Yes.
On celebrating. So tell me, I'm interested in understanding and maybe even, understanding other stories.
Yeah.
Tell me the difference between the girls, why maybe you think there's such a drastic difference.
Yeah. Well, on my side, I understood on an intellectual level the theory. I understood that I had to come into the picture because my little girl had lost everything. And that wasn't lost on me. However, I had 2 biological kids and she was 6.5 when she arrived. So I thought, we'll have a little intimate little party. And I had a cake made for when we arrived home. And I pulled it out. It was pink and it had flowers on it. And, we had a little party at home and just to welcome her, and then did a tour of the house and everything. And I think I set the standard for the day she arrived. And so in her mind, I think it's like, oh, so it's a party. And I really wanted the side of redemption to shine through and to communicate to her, you are very welcome. This is your home. Your life is so worthy of celebration. And we are so happy that you are one of us now. And we love parties and we love cake and we love, that you're a little girl.
You're Latinos.
We're Latino.
Everything's a celebration.
we do parties. Everything's a party. So, we just welcomed her and she loved that. And to this day, she loves that kind of attention and just, getting a little something and gifts. And, when people message her and she will post stuff for close friends in her social media and stuff like that. With our other daughter, she came at 9.5. And with her, like the vibe, as people say, is I had an urgency to get her out of the orphanage. Like my feeling when we went to get her was urgency. So there wasn't, we had a stuffed animal, we had like a welcoming thing, but my thing was, let's get home. Let's get home. Let's get you out of those clothes, get your hair clean. I had a different understanding because it was a year later and I had a different mission. And I think they pick up on that.
Of course.
And so they, and they are 2 different like opposite personalities. So Evelyn is like very laid back on that sense. And she's like, oh, we're doing that. Oh, awesome. So anyways, so on my side, I wanted to, have an atmosphere of welcome and celebration. And throughout the years, I've also, made it a point to have space for them to express every feeling. Like whenever I felt even the Lord, tug at me and say, open up the conversation. You haven't talked about this in months. So, I remember during the pandemic, I just cold turkey just sat down with them and said, hey girls, we haven't talked about your feelings lately around the adoption. I want you to know every feeling you have is valid.
That's so good.
Anger and shame and sadness and grief and all of that, you're right to feel it because you lost everything. And I just want you to know that I know that and I care. And whenever you want to talk about it, even if it's not with me,
Mm-hmm.
you are totally entitled to feeling those things. And so I hope that I have brought that balance.
Balance.
And Darlie still looks forward to that celebration every day, every year. And it may change as she matures, as she understands things differently, considers other perspectives, and it's fine. Because ultimately, I think the child should direct how her story or their story is handled.
Exactly. And that's so good, Aisha, that you brought that out, the difference, because your girls are different. God created all of us to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're saying today isn't about just how I feel. This is written in stone, do it this way, or you're not saying that this is how my daughters feel,
Mm-hmm.
or even all the other stories that we have heard, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a multitude of
Mm-hmm.
feelings
Yep.
and differences, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And we're not here to debate what's right and what's wrong,
Yep.
but just that we are different.
Mm-hmm.
Every child is different, and just because whoever came up with gotcha day doesn't always mean
Yeah.
it's this grandiose celebration,
Mm-mm.
and it should be. And so I think, coming from the side of a child, and I know that I did not express a lot of my feelings. I
Yeah.
put a smile on my face and
Mm-hmm.
I went along with it because I didn't want to be rejected again. I didn't want to be looked down upon or come across like I wasn't grateful.
Mm-hmm.
So if my parents would have started that, I might have gone along with it too.
Yeah.
But they never did. And looking back, I have often wondered, like, how would I feel? And I question, I love what you said. You brought him home. You did the celebration at home in the privacy of your
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
You didn't make it a public, look at me, what we did. We rescued these girls, or, we brought them in and it's their gotcha day. You made it about them. You wanted to make sure they knew they were celebrated. This is a new chapter. And you brought in redemption, as you said. You wanted them to understand that it was redemption, a new chapter, a new life, a new beginning. But yet you were respecting their feelings. And so I love hearing that, because sometimes I think we as humans can just, that's a new, what do we, mola, new
Like a trend.
trend happening. So let's get on board and we all got to do it.
Yeah.
But not every trend is for everybody,
Yeah.
you know?
And we found really strong feelings around it, honestly, because for adoptive parents, and I am part of leading the adoption support group for families, for parents.
Mm-hmm.
And parents, we celebrate in that chat. They share pictures of the day, they brought their kids home, and everything is just different. In that chat, we get to, just hug one another virtually because it's people from all over Latin America. And it's fine. We understand it. But sometimes what they miss out on is the fact that they are also celebrating the loss, in a way, of that child's first family, which
Because
is
it's their gain,
exactly, because
but it's the child's loss.
it's a tragedy and also a celebration, but it's a tragedy. And so sometimes, I come across, I don't know how they view my input. Sometimes I do step in and say, listen, consider the fact that your children, especially when they are becoming teenagers, it gets difficult. It gets, the questions start to come in, and the attitude, and the distance, and they're like, oh, but they used to love this, and yeah, but they're realizing they lost their first family, and that's never good. That's never sweet, or you know God's plan. Honestly, it's not. It's We are a redemptive measure, but every child is worthy of being conceived in love, received in love, raised in love, and celebrated throughout their lives in the family of their origin. And when that doesn't happen, we do well in recognizing that's a tragedy.
And I think that is so good that you brought that out, that just because at 2 years old, they love the celebration, what child wouldn't love a celebration or a gift or a cake? But when you're 12 or 22, our feelings change. And not that we give in to all feelings, because we do know feelings change, but we become more aware as adults, as we're growing into adulthood, why we were adopted. And our minds, I believe, go there whether we want to express it or not. And
Yes.
I have heard from so many adult adoptees, because just like you are part of the adult or the family support group, I help lead the adult adoptee support group in Latin America. And I've had the privilege of meeting so many other adoptees who are now on this side of their hurt and brokenness because of Jesus, that now they can express what they're feeling. And it's not always, most of the time, it's very different than when they were a child.
Yes.
So I think it's so wise of parents, if they just don't put it in concrete that, okay, this is how we're doing it. We're doing it every year this way. And too bad. Hope you like it. No, just really be wise in understanding and open those conversations, like you said, because I really feel like in my case, if my mom and dad, thinking back to if there was social media, if they would have been posting on social media that this is the day we got you, even though their feelings are valid and wonderful, and their heart would have been right in celebrating their the birth into the family of their new child, I'm not negating any of those wonderful feelings from the parents, but I do think there's a balance, and to take it into consideration and celebrate maybe privately. But I think if I could put myself back into those shoes of a teenager, and I would see, oh my goodness, my parents posting about the day I was adopted. And I knew that I hadn't even talked about being adopted to my friends in school because I was so ashamed of it. But if I would have seen they were posting all about my adoption, I think I would have died 1,000 deaths. But yet to have those conversations within the privacy of your home, and to understand maybe where your child's coming from. And I'm not even saying that every child could even express it. Because I remember, I was just thinking back, and I remember specific times when I'd be in the car with my mom, and she would ask me, why are you so unhappy?
She didn't grasp the whole complication of what your story.
She sensed that there was no joy, but maybe didn't connect it to the adoption part. And she felt, and this is where I want to encourage the parents, she thought it was something she wasn't doing for me. She was doing, I can tell you, I can promise you, everything that she could do for me. She was a good mom. They provided, but there was something deep within me that was causing that anger or sadness. It wasn't anything that she as a parent was lacking in. And so I hope that is encouraging to the parents, that there's times where your child might go through sadness, but it doesn't mean it's your fault.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. I would encourage the parents listening. If you have this tradition, if you do, if your child enjoys it and really enjoys it, because many kids will not show that they're struggling through anything. So be it Gotcha Day or be it their birthday or Mother's Day, which are all very triggering.
Oh, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah. Might I just pray that you consider your child's heart in all of this? May you have the sensibility to get yourself out of the center and
put yourself in their shoes.
Yes. And just ask yourself, what would I feel like? And even if you answer, I'd be so grateful, I'd be so happy. Well, we're not the same person. And so we are called to steward our motherhood, our parenting to honor the Lord. And that includes their feelings first. And so I would just encourage you, invite you to gain upon those opportunities to have meaningful conversations, to have, to ask questions. Maybe it doesn't serve you well in this season to have a party with cake and stuff. Maybe it'll be a letter saying,
exactly, how
honey,
special.
I love you. I'm glad you are mine, and I am so sorry for the loss of your first mom, for example. That'd be a very brave thing to do for a lot of moms. But maybe that would mean so much, and it would be so healing. So.
Yes. And of course, age appropriateness. We always talk about that. But, our podcast is all about having just real and honest conversations. We're just we just don't want to gloss over and make everything like, oh, it's perfect. It's okay. There's, we're trying to dive into real honest conversations, taking time to pause and think and considering both sides. That's why you represent the adoptive mom. I represent the adoptive child, but yet we're coming together, trying to bring encouragement, open up those real honest conversations that you would also pause and think about maybe your story, not comparing it or not getting on a trend just because the whole world's doing it. It must be good. But just taking time to pause and think and considering your child, your family, and how you feel that God would want you to handle Gotcha Day. So that's the heart of our talk today. And we're just so glad that you're here.
Yes. We encourage you to pray about every little step, and that you are observant and tender toward this need that your child has to know that her or his feelings are valid and that you are there for them.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing. So thank you for being here, and share this episode if it blessed you, if it helped you, if it brought good questions to your mind and heart. We're here to serve you, and we're so happy that you were here.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Pause and Think. For more resources and information, go to whosami.org.